If you're a leader out there, it's very likely that you have to do a lot of delegating. However, it's also very likely, statistically speaking, that you have not been taught or shown how to do it. So let's talk delegation. What actually is it? Well, delegation is about passing tasks onto some people in your team so that they can do them. But there's a mistake that everybody makes. They assume that the role of delegation is exactly that, passing their tasks onto somebody else to do them. Now, there's a problem with that. When it comes to tasks, because there is different types of delegation, there are 4 steps, 4 stages of delegation. And step 4 is they do it, which is when the members of your team are capable of completely doing that task autonomously, independently, without you as the leader having to show them how to do it. Now, the problem is when we start in a leadership role, we often jump straight to that and go, oh, our role must be to immediately get everybody else to do the task. And I hear things a lot in the field. I hear people say, oh, I just let people get on with the job and let them do it. And then I go, oh, how are they going performance-wise? Horribly. Or they go, oh, they're doing it right, they need some help sometimes. Oh, what are your performance review processes like? Oh, yeah, I've got a couple of people on a PIP, but it's not quite working. And I go, cool, how are you delegating? And they go, I give it to the other people to do the work, and they don't seem to be able to do what I can do as a leader. And it's because they've done this. They've gone to that stage where they say, hey, here's the task that you're responsible for, go do it. And all of a sudden they can't do it. So what are the steps that we're missing? Let's strip it all the way back to basics. Now keep in mind that we are specifically talking about task delegation. I make that point purposely because we're going to go through 2 different types of delegation. One is task. This is when we have a known thing that we are handing over to somebody else in the team to do it. Maybe it's a very technical thing, maybe it's a very process-orientated thing, whatever it happened to be. So the task is known, the solution is known. Step 1. Let's say you've got someone new in your team, or you're a new team leader and it's your job to delegate some of these tasks across to people. The first method of delegation, or to get people into the pathway of delegation that we've got here, step 1 is a really, really simple one that people don't like to do. It's when I, as the leader, I do. They watch. This is when you are actively demonstrating, hey, I need you to do this thing eventually. I am going to show you how to do it. You need to watch. Now that's really great because it gets people's observations going, especially if you actively engage them and make sure that they know why they're going through this process. So you're doing it. So I do, they watch. The next stage is, stage 2 is I do. Let's just make a little separation there. I do, they help. That means I, as the leader, I'm still doing it. Let's say the task was as simple as putting a nail in the wall so that you can hang up a picture, and for some reason you've got a whole team doing that. Maybe you're furnishing a hotel and you have to hang up a whole bunch of different artwork. So I do, they help. So I'm going to swing the hammer on 5 out of 10 of these nails, and then I'm going to pass the hammer to the next person and go, you know how I showed you how to do it? Now it's your turn. I want to make sure that you can do it. So I'm going to do it and you're going to help me do it. I do, they help. Now this stage is really important for what we call kinesthetic learners. These are people that cannot actually absorb information until they physically do it. They have to go through the process. That is typically referred to as a kinesthetic learner. So I do, they watch, I do, they help. 3. This is when they do, I help. So let's take that same simple analogy. You are furnishing the next floor of a hotel and you are tasked with hanging up all of the artwork. Happy days. Okay, it's your turn to do it. There are 10 nails to put in the wall. I want you to do every single one of them, but I'm going to be right beside you just in case you have a blind spot or you forget some of the technique, whatever it happened to be. So these are the 4 steps of task delegation. I do, they watch. I do, they help. They do, I help. And then finally, they do it. They don't need your help there, but they know that you're around in case there is a problem, or there's an anomaly, or there's steps that have changed. This is the process of task delegation. That's delegation type 1. Delegation type 2 is a little bit more complex, but not that more complex. This is when we have challenges. So instead of tasks, which we'll often call technical tasks, this is when we have challenges that require adaptivity. So this is when we need to use more of our brain. It's not necessarily as straightforward a process here. This is when we have challenges that need brain power to overcome. Now, instead of having 4 steps, we are going to have 5 steps in this particular case. Like this. And the very, very end one is the same as before. They do. But instead of they do, I'm going to use they solve. So this is the idea of we have a challenge and we have to arrive at a solution as a team. Now, at the very other end here, step 1, we might have a challenge that requires a bit of adaptation from the leader. Challenge comes along that we don't have a clear solution. So the very first step of delegating an adaptive challenge to your team member is I solve, they watch. You'll see it's very similar to before. Happy days. So they go through the process of watching me as the leader go through the different potential options, maybe look for an innovative approach, something like that, right? So I solve, they watch. The next step is we solve. This is when we are inviting them into the piece where we are actually tackling these challenges together. So we solve. I'm going to put together there as well. The next one, this is where we start to hand over the challenge itself, the adaptation, the brain power, which is they research, we solve. Now, what does this one mean and why is it different to the previous one? In step 2, this is when we are going through the potential options, the potential innovations together. We are going through these parts together. The next stage is we want to pass over the critical thinking part, but we still want to have a little area there where we've got some oversight so that they're not off in the wilderness themselves already, just lost in the babe in the woods out there trying to do it all of themselves. So we're getting them to do the research. They're coming up with the solutions and then bringing it to the table and go, hey Mitch, I came up with what I think is a great idea. Do you think this will work? And I go, let's go through it. Okay, let's go through it together and let's solve this solution together. 4, this is the final step that we haven't covered yet, which is when they solve and report. So this is the idea of extending from here. They've already proven that they can do the research to come up with a solution for this adaptive challenge, and we've done it together. So the next stage is they go out, they do the research, they do the solution, but they do report back to us. So we have that oversight. There is a chain there. The final step of this is that they solve it and they don't need to necessarily report in on that specific challenge. Now, of course, there's going to be plenty of caveats to this. If you're working on a safety issue or in a governance or in regulation or something like that that requires it, that's obviously the exception to the rule here. But this is the chain that we want to take through when it comes to an adaptive challenge and how we hand adaptive challenges over to members of our team. So we're not just giving it to them and go, good luck team with this very difficult challenge. We are stepping them through the process methodically. And this is the thing that a lot of leaders end up getting wrong. They want to get to this part as soon as possible because they thought, I was brought into a leadership position to run a team and get the team to do the work. Isn't that the purpose? No. A newsflash for you. The role of leadership is to serve the needs of the team. That's actually what your role is, not the other way around. The team's not there to serve the leader's needs. It is the other way around. So if you want to get to this stage of delegation where you're able to hand over those tasks to your team and you can claim some of your time back to working on something else, you must step through this process. You will also find that some members of your team, especially if you're starting a new team or you've got new people entering into the team, they will enter into the team at different levels of capability. Many people will be at that entry level position, but our working culture essentially makes them think that they are higher up, and they'll all bluff and bluster and they'll pretend that they're better than they are. So it's your job as a leader to try and assess where they're at. You can always start with step 2, especially if it's a non-critical task where you think, ooh, this is a good test case. The kind of risk of it going wrong isn't too dramatic. It's not going to be too much of a problem. We're not going to put anyone in danger. We're not going to hurt anyone. We're not going to lose ridiculous money for the business, whatever it happens to be. So you can start with step 2, which is giving them a test. Hey, why don't you go and do it, and I'll just observe and I'll see your skills. And you might see immediately, wow, they're really good. Let's step them up to the next level here. Or they might be really entry level. They might struggle, and then we step it back and you grab the tools and go, hey, let me show you how we do it here. You watch, and then next I'm going to pass the tool to you. You help, etc., and you can step them through the pathway. When it comes to those adaptive challenges, we can do the same. Hey, there's an interesting scenario that's arisen. We've got 2 members of the team that are doing a bit of infighting, and hey, member of the team, you've been brought into a middle management position. How would you solve this particular issue? Why don't we do it together? And you might just notice by the language that they're using that they are well behind and go, they need to see how we do it here. Or they might be an absolute gun and they come flying into it, and you can immediately step them up the delegation pathway. Either way, your goal is going to be somewhere up here where you can move away from the capacity intensive directivity, coaching, direction, all of these different areas that sit across here. They're going to take a lot of your time as a leader. Once we open this part up, which is they do, I help, or they solve and report, or finally they do it or they solve it, that is where we want to get as many of our team members as possible, because that opens up our capacity as a leader to go and work with the rest of the members of the team that might need help. Or instead of working directly operationally in the business, maybe we can step back out and we can work on the business instead. So when it comes to delegation, if these 2 different methodologies help you, let me know in the comments, of course. Drop me a DM or something like that if you want more hints. You can click the buttons down below if you want to download any packs. I've got a couple of ebooks and different resources that you can download for free. Just click the links below or check the comments depending on what platform we're running this on at the moment. Hope that's helped. Use delegation. Make sure you step through the process. That's how you get success.